Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Chapter number 16, entitled The Divine and Demoniac Natures. Text number 10. Kamam asricha dushpuram damba mana madan vitaha Mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante suchivrataha kamam asricha dushpuram dhambamana madhanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan parvartante asuchivrataha kamam asricha dushpuram dambamana madanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante asuchivrataha kamam asrita dushpuram dambamana madanvitaha mohad grititva sadgrahan pravartante asuchivrataha kamam asrita dushpuram dudbamana vadanvitaha mahadvasadgrahan pravartante sachivrataha kamam asritya dushpuram dambamana madhanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante suchivrataha kamam asricha dushpuram dambamana madhanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante suchivrataha. Vaishnavis. Kamam asricha dushpuram dambamana madanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante suchivrataha. Anyone else? Kamam asricha dushpuram dambamana madanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante asuchivrataha kamam asricha dushpuram dambamana madanvitaha mohad grihitva sadgrahan pravartante suchivrataha. Kamam, lust, astricha, taking shelter of, dushpuram, insatiable, damba, of pride, mana, and false prestige, mada anvitaha, absorbed in conceit, mohat, by illusion, grehitva, taking, asat, non-permanent, grahan, things, pravartante, they flourish, asuchihi, to the unclean, vrataha, avowed. Translation and purport His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Please repeat. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Purport. The demoniac mentality is described here. The demons have no satiation for their lust. They will go on and increasing their insatiable desires for material enjoyment. Although they are always full of anxieties on account of accepting non-permanent things, they still continue to engage in such activities out of illusion. They have no knowledge and cannot tell that they are headed in the wrong way. Accepting non-permanent things, such demoniac people create their own God, create their own hymns, and chant accordingly. The result is that they become more and more attracted to two things: sex enjoyment and the accumulation of material wealth. The word ashuchihi vrataha, unclean vows, is very significant in this connection. Such demoniac people are only attracted by wine, women, gambling, and meat eating. Those are their asuchi, unclean habits. Induced by pride and false prestige, they create some principles of religion which are not approved by Vedic injunctions. Although such demoniac people are most abominable in the world, by artificial means the world creates a false honor for them. Although they are gliding toward hell, they consider themselves very much advanced. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandayaham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sihitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kamam asricha dushpuram dambamanamadhanvitaha mohad grihit vasad grahan pravartante suchivrataha. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. So in the beginning of the chapter, Krishna gave in 3 verses the divine qualities. And after that he told Arjuna, don't worry, you have divine qualities. But as we've heard in class, Krishna was speaking in Dwapara Yuga. And in Dwapara Yuga, the divine and the demoniac, they were in the same family. The example is the Kauravas and the Pandavas. They're in the same family, but different members of the same family were divine and demoniac. Like Arjuna is divine and Duryodhana is demoniac. But in the age of Kali, we find that divine and demoniac natures are within the same person. So there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Prahlad Maharaj prays to Lord Narasimhadev. In the fifth canto, 18th chapter, 8th verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Tejase Avir Bhava Vrajanaka Vrajadamstra Kamasayan Randaya Tamograsa Grasaram Svaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyushta Om Krishom. So the translation here given by Srila Prabhupada. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Narasimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruit of activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. So in this verse, you might have noticed there's some repetition of words, and some of this is for emphasis. He says Tejase means the power of all power. Avir Bhava means please be manifested. And the other one is Randaya, which means kindly vanquish, but he repeats it twice for emphasis. And Grisa is also kindly drive away, repeated twice for emphasis. And this Karma Asayan, which means the desires to be happy by material activities. So Srila Prabhupada explains that simply one who takes shelter of Krishna, which is also in the Bhagavad-Gita, Devim Ashrita in 9th chapter. Mahatmanas tu mam parata devim prakritim ashritaha vijantyam ananya manaso yatva buddhamdim avyayam. So devim prakritim ashrita. So those people who take shelter of the divine nature of Lord Krishna are considered to be demigods, demigods. And those people who take shelter of the material energy are considered to be demons. So, as Prabhupada explains here in the middle of the purport, the people, they have no knowledge. So, most of us were also in that condition. We had no knowledge at all. So we took shelter of the material energy because that's what we were brought up with, and that's all we knew. So we'll try and understand how this verse includes applying to us, because if we spend our time looking at other people and saying they, I mean, Krishna can, because he's in Dwapara Yuga, he's speaking about other people. But in Kali Yuga we have to see how we can improve ourselves. So also we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a commentary how the demons in Krishna's Leela represent different bad qualities within ourselves. Even to the extent that he's given the analysis that the demons who are killed by Krishna will be removed by Krishna if we sincerely follow the process. But the demons who are killed by Balaram, we have to put some effort in to remove ourselves. Now, I'm not qualified to speak on that. I want to speak a little bit. Prabhupada gave class on this verse, and he almost spoke on each word of the Sanskrit gradually, bit by bit. I'm not so qualified, but I'll try and give the essence of what he was telling, and we'll go through the purport as well. So this Ashrita, as I just said, the Devim Ashrita, the ones who take shelter of the Krishna and the divine energy, are demigods. So this one is Kamam Ashrita, the demon-like nature. It takes shelter of lust. So Prabhupada spent quite some time of explaining how we cannot be independent. We cannot be without shelter. We might think we're independent. We may not want to take shelter of Krishna, but we're always then taking shelter of this kamam, our material desires, our desires for honor, our desires for false prestige. Dushpuram means insatiable. How that once we take shelter of these desires never stop. Now, the way the translation is worded, we think, oh, these are terrible, terrible people. But if we take it a little slowly, we can see how it applies in a lesser way, just in the simple society that we live in. So take, for example, the advancement, the so-called advancement in modern science, in modern technology, modern even theory, modern social theories. All these advancements, how they are gradually, as said here, dushpuram, they are getting more and more unclean, away from Krishna. So take, for example, social theory. So Freud actually said that the whole world is based on sex. So Prabhupada said, yes, he's right. In this material world, when we don't know about Krishna, this is the driving force for this whole material world. So since then there have been many theories. Because as Prabhupada says here, they invent their own ideas. So if you deny God and then you deny the place of religion, then actually morality doesn't have a basis either. Because in all societies all around the world, our laws of morality come from our religious principles. So once you deny God and deny religious principles, then morality sinks lower and lower. And they start saying, we'll look after ourselves, we won't worry about someone else. We'll look after, like that. And now the basic moral theory is, I can do what I like as long as I don't hurt you. Then basically has come onto law, because it's such a strong theory. In other words, this whole degradation of society with illicit sex, with drug use, self-destructive things like that, are free to use in a lot of cases, as long as I don't hurt someone else. Then I can do it. Because that's what happens if you come away from the religious base to morality, then you have no basis for morality. And anything goes. Anything goes. And it gets more and more degraded. Because all you have to do is deny that something else has a soul. Like animals. You can kill animals, they don't have a soul. We've declared they don't have a soul because we want to kill them. Or we've declared that the fetus in a womb doesn't have a soul until 3 months before it's born. So we can kill it. Oh, then we've declared that a fetus can be killed anyway, so let's kill it. So without religious principles, your morality just changes according to desires. So you can see how dushpuram, how this material desires causes insatiable, and the whole society gets more and more degraded. And Prabhupada also talked about education for technology is simply education to become polished animals. Next word's mohad, which means next word is damba, pride, and mana, false prestige. So false prestige and pride are basically what the false ego is about. We come into this world because we've turned away from Krishna, and therefore we see that we're the center. We have a desire to enjoy like Krishna, so we want to put ourselves in the place of the enjoyer. So we imagine then that everything else around us is there for our pleasure. We see lots of people around us, but as we'll see later on, if they don't agree with my desires, then I'll kill them, I'll get rid of them. This comes up in a few verses. The demoniac person who thinks like this. If people agree with me, that's good. I have a relationship as long as everything goes according to my desires for enjoyment. My marriage will last as long as my partner satisfies my expectations of what a partner should be. But even more than that, they will do it to their own family. My family member will be fine as long as they do what I think. In this age of Kali, Prabhupada's explained how in the European countries, how even in the royal families, royal people will kill their brothers or their fathers just simply to get their own way, to take the rule. So this pride and false prestige is driven by this dushpuram, this insatiable desires, dushpuram kamam. Mada anvitaha, absorbed in conceit. Again, conceit means self-centered. Mohat, by illusion. Grihitva, taking shelter of illusion. So Prabhupada goes on to explain they have no knowledge. So our preaching process is to try and preach to those who have knowledge and give them knowledge. And say that this is... and try and get them to understand that actually they're attempting to get something that they will never achieve. Because this lust, this kamam is dushpuram, insatiable. So if somebody will aspire for something and they'll get it. If only I had another house in this neighborhood, then everything will be fine. And they get it. Oh, if only I had the house on the other side of the street, it would be good. And then they get it. If only I had a bigger bathroom, then that would be fine. And so like that, the desires are insatiable. So they have to understand that this will never be satisfied. So, of course, some people do not want to hear this. Some people will not take to our preaching. So, as we learn in the offenses to the holy name, we shouldn't preach to those who are atheistic, but we can try and give some knowledge to those who are simply ignorant. Now Prabhupada also spent some time, aside from taking shelter of impermanent things, on this asuchi. So he talked about suchi, which means keeping clean. Even he said bathing 3 times a day. Keeping clean internally by cultivating good habits, keeping clean externally. Prabhupada's mentioning in the purport here how they take shelter of these demoniac activities like wine, woman, gambling, and meat eating. And then he goes on to speak about how getting this cleanliness in society is by Varnashram Dharma. Because when people take shelter of Varnashram Dharma, they regulate their desires. Varnashram gives people duties in order to regulate their desires and have all society working together. So in this way, if people accept their duty in Varnashram Dharma, we have duties according to Varna, which means occupational class, and according to Ashram, which means this from Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. And if we take shelter of these duties, they are purifying duties. They're purifying in one way simply because they're given to us in the Shastras, so they're instructions of Krishna. So in that way, they're purifying because we're following his instruction. They are also purifying because they help us to control our desires. And they also help us to work cooperatively with everybody else. The duties of our wife are to serve the husband, the duties of the husband are to protect the wife. And then they both have a role in bringing up the children. So Prabhupada explains in one place where he's explained that generally women are less intelligent. We know, we've heard that. We have to understand what it means. It means, in this place he explained that generally, if they are not regulated, generally women have a greater need for comfort. So this is about this lust, being comfortable. So a woman trying to be independent will be thinking of herself and not thinking of others. But this duty in Varnashram Dharma gets them to think about others. So then she learns to serve the husband who is giving protection. And then the husband gives the protection in order to provide a home. So he provides resources and he provides a nice, safe home. And then this service can go beyond that into serving children. And by bringing children into this material world in a way that they can be taught how to get out of it. So this is a very great service. It becomes, in a way, the service of the Prajapatis. So this service is very important for those who take it up. Even Bhakti Siddhanta said that he's a Naishtaki brahmachari. He never married, he never considered marrying. But he said if he could bring children into Krishna consciousness, he'd have 100 children. Because it is that much an important job to bring Krishna consciousness into the society in this way. Now some people blame the fall down of part of the Western world on the fact that the higher classes regulate the number of children by demoniac means, and therefore they have fewer children. But the lower classes don't do that, so therefore the lower classes have more children, and therefore the population gradually gets more and more of this Varna Sankara, which means this unregulated population. So we have, because we have in, like in the first chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna, when he's trying to understand whether he should fight or not, he gives a society, he gives a fall down sequence for society. If all the rulers, if all the kshatriyas are killed, how then then the whole society will be without leadership. One thing is that they're all kshatriyas, and one thing is that all the husbands have gone, so all the wife are without shelter. So then the wife will have to take shelter of unscrupulous men, and society will become degraded, because simply in order to protect their families, they will have to take shelter of somebody, or they will have to trade in the open market where they're open to being exploited by somebody. So in this way, what Arjuna was predicting is happening. but not because all the men were killed. It's happening now in this age because there was a move by unscrupulous men to push women to be independent so that these men could enjoy them. So this Prabhupada revealed that this feminist movement was a move by unscrupulous men to take advantage of women and take them out of protection, and so they could enjoy them. So in this way, the women become unprotected and they have to take shelter of lower class men, and that results in Varna Sankara, more children who are born without proper preparation. Even if you don't count samskaras, you'll have more children who are born without proper planning and without the parents' desire to bring children into this world, the desire to properly educate them and give them a good home and like that. Because in this Varna Sankara community, in this community that's lower than Sudra, children are just a byproduct. I did my placement, I studied social work. I did my placement in a Christian social service agency where we were working in a food bank. And for me it was a great education on how an atheistic government can't do anything good. Because an atheistic government provides a benefit, a social welfare benefit for women who don't have support, which seems like a good thing. They don't have support, let's support them. But what the result is with some people who didn't have the intelligence to work out that it's supposed to be for their benefit is that they just keep having more and more children. It doesn't matter. If I have another child, I just go back to the government and they'll give me another $100 a week to look after the child. So some of these people, I had one case study I was doing for my diploma. There were 6 children in the family, and I think it was either 4 or 5 with different fathers. So she had changed relationships. Oh, this doesn't work. It no longer meets my needs. Let's go away, go somewhere else. So she changed relationships 4 or 5 times. And the children, they have to come into a food bank. Yes, the government was giving them so many $100 for them, and then each children they would get another $80 or $90 a week. But they would spend all this money, like Prabhupada says here, on going out to nightclubs and drinking and gambling. They would go gambling. They would put things on hire purchase things, and then they have to pay for them. So much money of their income goes into payment. Then they'd have no money for the children, so then they come along to the food bank and beg for money for the children. And if they didn't get it, then the children go hungry, because they have no knowledge even how to look after children. And it's the result of an atheistic government. So the atheistic government comes as a society gets more and more degraded, and it's based on voting system. So a degraded society will vote for something that will fulfill what they think their needs are, which is simply more sense gratification. If someone promises them more sense gratification, they'll vote for it. If someone's more pious and doesn't promise them, then they won't get the votes. So even Prabhupada encouraged some of his disciples to try and go into politics. Sometimes he said don't bother, and sometimes he encouraged them to try. But of course, to a limited success, because if the whole society is degraded and they can vote for who they want, they'll vote for somebody who will simply gratify their senses. So in this way, how this whole world of kamam ashrita dushparam, taking shelter of insatiable lust, just makes the society get more and more degraded. Just simply as an evolutionary process, it will simply get more and more degraded. Now we hope it's not going to be the same in India, because in India we have something slightly pious people in the country, and who knows, still some of the things they're doing are not popular with the common people because it makes things hard, and the common people will vote according to their own comforts. So we'll see what happens. But there are some people in India who are trying. But from my experience, when I was in the West, did my diploma, I could see this atheistic government just cannot do anything good. They spend so much money on social welfare, but it doesn't receive any good results. So this asuchi vrataha, this unclean vows, can be corrected only by bringing people into varnashram dharma and giving them duties by which they serve others and they serve society. And in that way the society can become more clean. Now, so the other thing I was thinking of to make it more relevant for us is we can look at, in relation to devotional service, how some of these qualities can also affect us. So Omala Mataji put out another translation of Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. She did a lot of work retranslating, and she put in some extra prayers by Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, and she put in some extra commentaries by some of our current Vaishnavas as well. It's a very nice book. By taking it this way, you can easily understand how it relates to us. So in the beginning, in verses 4 through 8, Raghunath Das Goswami talks about a progression of how these different demoniac desires will trap us even when we come to devotional service. How we have to try on a more subtle level to uproot all these desires. So in verse 4, Raghunath Das Goswami says, "O mind, abandon the prostitute of mundane talks, who plunders all intelligence. Do not listen at all to the stories of the tigress named Mukti, who devours all soul. Moreover, give up attachment to the husband of Lakshmi, Sri Narayan. Instead, take shelter of here and Vraj, of Radha Krishna." So she describes this prajalpa, mundane talking, as being like a prostitute who steals the desire for love of God from your heart. Because we can experience that practically. For example, if we're chanting, our mind wanders onto some mundane subject. It might be, what am I going to do today? It might be what pain my body is in. It might be what someone said to me I have to remember. And this takes away our desire for love of Godhead. It takes away our attention to the holy name. So in some ways, this wandering onto a mundane subject matter is actually stealing our opportunity for love of Godhead. This is what Raghunath Das Goswami says. So he calls it a prostitute. And he calls Mukti a tigress. And he says, even stay away from Lakshmi. Because if we desire to go to Vaikuntha, there is some desire there. Some desire to be with Lord Narayan, to have his opulence, to have opulence like him, to have bodily features like him. And it will keep us away from Vraj, where we get the highest goal of love of Godhead. So Bhakti-Vinod Thakur commented on this, and she's also given his commentary. So he says that impersonal liberation is like a prisoner who commits suicide. So if you're in prison and you don't like it in prison, one way to get out is to kill yourself. But what have you actually gained? You're no longer in prison, but you've gained nothing. So liberation is like that. Out of discomfort for the material world, we try to get out of it and go for liberation. But we're actually not achieving anything. We're just achieving relief. Desires for material enjoyment and liberation are like two witches. Because a witch is known because it will confuse us and seduce us. Now, verse 5 should be coming up. Yeah, so the solution he gives in this verse is serve Radha Krishna. In verse 5 he says, While here, on the revealed path of devotion, I have been attacked by a gang of my own lust, etc., who have bound my neck with the troublesome, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds. I am being killed. Cry out piteously for the devotees of Krishna, the destroyer of Baka. So these bad qualities: anger, envy, greed, illusion, lust, and madness. So Raghunath Das Goswami says that because they drive us into activities which are bad, he's calling this wicked deeds. So he's saying it's like a gang of highway robbers, and they drive us to wicked deeds are the ropes that will tie us and keep us away from this path of going towards Godhead. And the solution is to call out for the devotees of Krishna. Verse 6. O ruffian mind, why do you burn yourself and me, the soul, by bathing in the trickling urine of a great donkey of full-blown hypocrisy and duplicity? Instead, you should always bathe in the ocean of love emanating from the lotus feet of Sri Gandharvika Giridhari. So this is like a progression, because lust, anger, greed, illusion are like gross problems for us. But then once we get past that, we then think, okay, we're doing good, we've given up these things, and now we've become devotees. So then hypocrisy and deceit comes in, because we're not yet pure devotees, but we want to put on a show of being pure devotees. So sometimes, there was a nice quote, I can't remember who, one of our Vaishnavacharyas, who said, if I put as much effort into being humble as I put into making people think that I'm humble, maybe I'll actually be humble by now. Because, yeah, of course, we're taught Vaishnava etiquette. We're taught to make a show of being humble. We're taught the etiquette to show other people. Now, this is not bad. This is better than not following etiquette. But we have to remember that we have to actually become humble. We have to actually take that action into our hearts. Prabhupada would always caution that when we address other people as Prabhu, he encouraged us to address everybody as Prabhu. But that's not just a name. Prabhu means, you're my master, I can learn from you. I can serve you. So if we say somebody Prabhu and then criticize them, we're not actually taking the meaning of that word Prabhu. Prabhu means master. So when we address our fellow devotees as Prabhu, it's because we look at them all with respect. We're all on the path of devotional service, and every single one of us has something that they're very good at that I can learn from. I might, if I don't have that attitude, then that's arrogance, because I think I'm better than anyone else, then I won't learn. Humility is required, Prabhupada says, even to learn something material. You have to at least be humble to think, I need to learn something. I need to go somewhere and learn something. So in this way, if we actually take this word Prabhu and we take its meaning to our heart and approach everybody, yes, I need to learn something from you. Somebody may be better at japa than us. Somebody might be better at concentrating on their service than us. There's so many different things. Everybody will have some good quality that they're better than us at. Because that's the good thing about learning about the association of devotees, is that we're not actually the best at anything. Even somebody went to Prabhupada in a great enthusiasm and says, I'm your most fallen servant. And Prabhupada just said, you're not the most fallen anything. You're not the most anything. You're not even the most fallen. So this hypocrisy and deceit is on a more subtle level than the gross activities like anger, we can begin to control our emotions and our activities, but still this pretense is there, this duplicity and hypocrisy. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes this much further, but he actually describes the different types of devotees and how this hypocrisy and deceit is exhibited. So he describes 3 different classes of devotees. There are Svanishta sadhakas. This is out of the Grihastas, who fully take to devotional service. There are Parinishta sadhakas, who are engaged in prescribed activities. So this is 2 classes of non-renunciates. There are some, like Grihastas, will take shelter in the temple, who will do only temple service, and in that way they will make their livelihood just serving in the temple with itself. There are other people who will work outside, do their prescribed duties, earn money, and support the temple. And they're a different class. And then there are the Nirapeksha, which means the renunciates. So he describes how 3 different classes of devotees get caught up in this deceit. So this, in the beginning, is the devotees who simply take shelter of Krishna, take shelter of the temple service. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this deceit, what he calls the urine of a donkey. So this analogy is also explained. We know that cow urine is actually purifying, it's very good, it's very healthy. But he describes that donkey urine is actually burning. So we think we're bathing in something pure, but it's a donkey, it's not a cow, and it's actually burning us and taking us away. So he says for the full-time devotees, this hypocrisy and deceit comes in trying to enjoy prasadam because it's nice food, as opposed to because it's prasadam, but because it's offered to the Lord. So we can get over-attached. I want this prasadam, I need this prasadam, and not just accept prasadam as it is. Prasadam means mercy. They can cultivate, when they go out preaching, they can cultivate, if they start to cultivate somebody because they think they'll get something, that's also a deviation. If we go out preaching, we should be preaching because we want to give something to people, not because we think they'll give money in return. So that is also a deviation. That is also a deviation from pure preaching and from proper behavior, because we're doing it for our own glorification. I'll sell lots of books if I go here. They won't read my books, it doesn't matter, I'll sell them, and then my numbers will go high. Like that. Desire for opulent, like clothing and paraphernalia. I'm guilty. I've got an iPhone. I wanted a very good phone, so I'm guilty, right? But I've got database on my iPhone. That's my excuse. But like that, the desire for something opulent when we don't need something opulent in the name of devotional service. So this also comes in, or the desire for a beautiful sari, or the desire for something like, I need this, I need a room of my own, I need so many things in order to do my service. But actually we're making a pretense. And the other one is by taking the Shastras and twisting them for our own purpose. This is also an abomination. Okay, so the next class is the Parinishta, which means the ones who engaged basically in Varnashram. They're doing their duties, but they can also make a show. They can make a show of bringing home money for the family. They can make a show of deity worship, but not make an effort to cultivate their relationship with Krishna. Because a householder, if they're living out from the temple, are recommended to do deity worship. But in that, we're putting the deity as the owner of the house, and we're becoming their servants. But if we just put up, we can We can spend a lot of money on deity worship and not cultivate that attitude, and that's also deceitful. What's the rest? Pretending to be very strict at observing rules and regulations, but when nobody's watching, let me just take that extra, I can eat chocolate now, nobody's watching, like that. And being attracted to the company of non-devotees in the excuse of preaching. I like their company, so let me go and cultivate these devotees here, like that. So in this way, these devotees who are engaged in their varnashram dharma are deceitful. And then for the renunciants, they have different ways. By thinking, but if a renunciant thinks that because I'm a renunciant, I'm more advanced than somebody else, then that's deceitful. If they expect honor from others, somebody gave an example in a class last week, how when he was a young devotee, his bhakti leader took a bite of a cake and gave him to him and said, "Here, you can have my prasad." And of course this guy was a new devotee. He didn't know anything about taking prasad or anything. He was quite confused. But like that, expecting that somebody will give us glorification, somebody will be after us to honor us, somebody will be there to serve us. You can also take for an example like when Ishvara Puri sent Govinda to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to serve him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't want us to take his service, and he thought about it. He discusses with his associates. He says, "I cannot take service from my god brothers. He's my god brother. He's Prabhu. He's not to serve me." But then he said, "But my Guru Maharaj has sent him to serve me. So therefore, the order of my spiritual master is higher. So I must accept the service." But as a general rule, we try not to take service from other devotees. Even Prabhupada, there was a nice quote that came up from Prabhupada. He says, "Actually, I can't accept anything from you. I'm accepting it only because it's in service of my Guru Maharaj and Krishna. But I don't have the right to accept anything from you at all." Even Prabhupada, devotee would give him very flash cars and big accommodation. He didn't require it, but sometimes he accepted it in order to preach. Somebody quoted Prabhupada, I don't know if it's right, as saying that actually he has more than the richest man in the world. Because the richest man in the world, if he wants to go somewhere, he has to book a plane ticket, he has to go there, he has to pay for people to serve him. But Prabhupada, he can go anywhere. People will come to the airport and pick him up. They will serve him, they will cook for him. He lives in the most palatial building because he lives in Krishna's temple. Actually, he is more honored, but he doesn't accept any of that honor for himself. So, in that way, a renunciate has to be very careful that the honor is coming, we pass it on up the parampara to our guru, and like that through to Prabhupada. What else have we got? Renunciate can also become under fault for collecting more than is required. Because especially an advanced devotee, sometimes everybody will come and give you something. Now, as a brahmana, it's their duty to accept donations, but then they should be giving away again what they don't require. The brahmana can accept millions of dollars, but by the next day he should give it away if he doesn't require it. That's the rules of a brahmana, to accept charity but also to give charity. So if one collects and keeps more than is required, that's also deceitful. And associating again improperly in the name of preaching, associating with the opposite sex in the name of preaching. Oh, there's more. Befriending materialist people for the hope of wealth. Making a big show of wearing the nicest dress. Collecting too much again. making a big show and not following with the heart. So that is there. So that's the next subtle level. But we get even more. So these desires and these accumulations, there is a more subtle level than that, which is called the desire for prestige. Now Raghunath Das Goswami calls this an unchaste dog-eating woman of desire. This is a nice graphic image to try and make an impression of your mind. As long as the unchaste dog-eating woman of desire for prestige dances on my heart, how can the chaste and pure lady of love of Krishna touch it? So, how to think of somebody so low you can associate with. So a dog eater, we know a dog eater is low. Prabhupada even in a couple of lectures explain what these dog eaters do. He explains how they eat dogs. They feed the dog rice and gourd until it eats so much it dies. And then they cook it. And then they call it dog cake. In two lectures Prabhupada explained that. It's a horrible thought. Anything more horrible you can't. So not only this woman eats dogs, but she's unchaste as well. So her partner when she's unchaste is deceit. Her lover is deceit. So this desire for prestige is like associating with the worst thing. So that is an even more subtle level. So for that, Raghunath Das Goswami says that we should serve the devotees, serve Krishna's devotees. In verse 8. Yeah, so that's the different levels. This desire for prestige is the most subtle level, the most inside of our heart that is hard to get rid of. So I hope that was something helpful for you. And I'll just read this translation again. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. So we try and see this from the level of society and from the level personally, how we can make sure that we're not also this demoniac person. And Krishna goes on about demoniac nature for several more verses yet. Okay, thank you very much. Does everyone have any comments or question in relation to today's class? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Mother, there are 2-3 points. One point is that you shouldn't preach to the atheistic. So sometimes we have to speak to everyone.
Yes.
Whether he is atheistic or not. So if he is atheistic, then we should try to avoid him. But when he is little favorable, we should see that how is favorable and you know.
Yeah.
Knowledge and this thing, and if he is interested, then this atheistic can turn into a devotee.
Yeah, so Prabhupada also explains that the devotees of Krishna are more merciful than Krishna. Krishna says don't preach to the atheistic, the non-devotees, but the devotees will try. But the other point is that once we find that they're openly atheistic, that they're really inimical, then we stop preaching and give them some prasadam, because we don't want to encourage them to offend Krishna. So rather than to keep preaching them and they will become offensive, is to stop and give them prasadam and go away. But yeah, we try. We will try and preach to them.
One more point is that money. We are speaking about money. Because money sometimes it makes us in the demonic way. If we have more money, then we see how we should enjoy this money, and then the last time we come to us. So this is the what the if we have more money, if we have normal money, then we know that we don't have much money and we should be more mercy, take the mercy from Krishna and be Krishna conscious.
Yeah, Queen Kunti prays like that. In Queen Kunti's prayers, she say how the Lord is the property of the materially impoverished, and how these opulences can stop us from coming to Krishna. But of course, Prabhupada showed us that when we don't accept them as our property, when we accept them as to be used in Krishna's service, then any amount of opulence can be used. But yeah, it's a danger. The other danger with opulence is that we can take shelter of it. Instead of surrendering to Krishna, we can say, well, if something goes wrong, I've got my bank balance. I know that's something that I have to be careful of, because if I run out of money, then I will be quite different. I'll be in much more anxiety. It's not so easy to take shelter when you have nothing. And you can also find that for some who are poor, actually it's not guaranteed that they will be surrendered to Krishna. Because some people who are poor, actually, they have, some of them who have more desires, then their desires are frustrated because they can't fulfill them. And they don't become peaceful because they have the desires. And so the main thing is to get rid of these desires for enjoyment, this karma.
One more last point.
Prabhu.
Because you said we should get as everyone as Prabhu as master.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, when we were here, we could see that everybody used to chant Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Gopal Prabhuji, Krishna Prabhuji, whatever the name, the spiritual name we are having, we used to address in that way. But nowadays the time has changed and everybody doesn't want to call Hare Krishna or Prabhuji or giving his name. Everyone, we are coming the shortcuts. We say Hare Ram to everybody. We never chant Prabhuji or Hare Krishna. So this thing sometimes we see that we are deviating from what Prabhupada has given us. And we
So we have to take responsibility for ourselves. One of the main things is we have to follow Prabhupada's instructions and read his books and listen to him. I mean, his recommendation at times seems very hard to follow. And to go to 2 classes a day and then spend a couple of hours reading his books or listening to his lectures is quite difficult. But we can try as much as we can, because the more we read Prabhupada's books and we listen to him, listen to his classes where he gives sometimes the application of what he's got in his books, read his letters, conversations, then we understand more of what Prabhupada wants and his mood. So if we just allow people, as we said in here, people can deceitfully take Prabhupada's words out of context and tell you Prabhupada said. And if you just take that without doing your own research and finding Prabhupada's mood, you can be led astray by somebody quite easily. So we have a responsibility as disciples, as members of, as disciples we have a responsibility to learn the mood of our Guru and the mood of Prabhupada. Because our Guru is the disciple of Prabhupada also, so the mood remains. Prabhupada explained that Guru Tattva is one. He says, Krishna says surrender to me, I say surrender to Krishna, we're saying the same thing. So even from Krishna all the way down, the Guru principle is one principle. So we surrender to that Guru principle, we have to follow the mood of the Guru. So you can see Prabhupada's mood. And the more and more, like if you listen to his tapes, you'll hear that mood of complete humility. How he's telling his disciples, you've come to help me. He's telling them, I can't accept anything from you. It's not my right to accept anything from you. I am accepting it only for service of my spiritual master. So the more we listen to Prabhupada, the more we will understand that mood. But that much is our responsibility. The instruction is there, we have to follow it.
Last one, this Prabhupada said, whatever the great man rules, the common man follow. So the great man also, he is debating from this one and is doing something. So we are following him, and then means we are debating whatever Prabhupada wanted or something.
Yeah, but we have to take responsibility for our spiritual life. Prabhupada said, if you're flying an aeroplane, you're flying the aeroplane. You can't expect the person in the next aeroplane to help you. You're the pilot of the aeroplane. If something goes wrong, you have to fly. So It's all very well, we think somebody else is doing something wrong, we're following them. But we need to take that responsibility and find out who to follow. I mean, there are devotees all around of us. Some of us may do something wrong in some area, and if we follow them, we'll be wrong. So it's our responsibility to know who to follow also. We can't give that responsibility away. Our responsibility to find out who is the bona fide guru, to take shelter from him, and when he's not around, we also have to take shelter from Siksha gurus. And it's our responsibility to find out who is bona fide and who is not. So following this Guru Sadhu Shastra, by following the process that Prabhupada's given us, attending the classes and learning, and that way we can become qualified to know who to take shelter of. Because it's not such a simple thing, and it's our responsibility. We want to go back to Godhead, we must make our effort. As I said, that some things we have to do ourselves, and some things we can pray sincerely to Krishna and he will help us. But we have to be prepared to put in some effort. And somebody gave the example, if you're in the bottom of a well, somebody will throw down a rope, you still have to hold on to the rope. So the mercy is there, but we have to do something to get the mercy. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much everybody. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.